を大切にしなくちゃ。
誰かと行ってくるの？
あ、それなんだけど、みんなで2人で行かない？あ、口が滑る。
いいよ。
私の
天気もいい日
この
がいいよね。
これってデートじゃないの？
金か
オーラに気づいてない？あ、じゃあ僕、もしかすると島君にとって私って。
二人で遊び。
So when it comes to Skip and Loafer, I've already talked about this in nauseum, but I want to still be able to sing its praises on how well and how really good and detailed the writing is in this anime. It's really like no other anime, like, I don't want to say before it, but it's really like no other anime we have this season, to where it's just continues to really capture the complexities of being young. And, you know, in this episode, we have a couple of different things that we're dealing with, right? On one end of the stick, we have Mitsumi, who's dealing with kind of like her inner feelings for our boy, right? She's dealing with her inner feelings, you know, for how everything is going to be shaking out and everything. And she's trying to figure out how to really navigate that when it comes through, you know, when it comes through friendship, you know, when it comes through, you know, challenges of trying to be friends, you know, trying to figure out how to really navigate that stuff. And, you know, trying to figure out on how to manage her jealousy. Why is she jealous? Things that come up in that way, right? And what we did find out this episode is, you know, around her aunt or her aunt or her, however you say it, right? She tends to talk about 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐸 a lot, okay? And that's obviously a really tall tale sign of somebody being important to you or being always on your mind. Typically, that's how it works when you have a crush or you really like somebody. They're basically all you can talk about. That just tends to be how it is, especially when you're younger. You know, it happens like all the time. You know what I mean? It's just a thing, a coming of age thing, to where it's like, okay, whether it's a boy or whether it's a girl, you know, if there's somebody that you like, you're gonna end up being, they're gonna end up being on your mind all the time, and you might be innocently kind of like talking about them, sometimes without even noticing. And I think it really captures that quite well. The other complexity that this episode really tackled and really nailed was 𝐜𝐴, which was the student council. I think she was the student council secretary before, and she is now the student council vice president. But she did go and you know, present herself to be able to try and get the student council presidency. Now she failed, but originally she had thought that she had nobody opposing her at all. Well, come to find out that she actually did have somebody oppose her, and the person who opposed her was a very popular kid. He was next in line to be captain for the soccer team. Basically, he's a really popular dude, and because he threw his hat in the ring, you know, a lot of girls like him, all the boys love him. He got the presidency above 𝐜𝐴. And this episode definitely handled with, you know, and I think Mitsumi said it really well here. It's like, effort sometimes leads to overconfidence. Effort sometimes leads to arrogance. But effort isn't always rewarded. And I think that statement alone really captures the essence of what it means to, especially when you're young. Sorry, guys, I can't breathe right now. I've been dying from allergies. But especially when you're young, you're learning all these life lessons, right? And, you know, these life lessons, you know, eventually, you know, accumulate. And you accumulate all these different life lessons. And you learn on how to navigate your life. You learn what kind of person you're going to be. You learn to know that effort isn't always rewarded. And to realize that. And to be able to navigate that, you know. And it just teaches you a life lesson. And I think this episode really nailed that, hey, you have somebody who is really crushed. What do you do for that person? You know, there's not much you can do for somebody like that. You know, you can be their support. You can give them a hug. You can tell them everything's going to be okay. But ultimately, in this specific situation with 𝐜𝐴, is she wanted to be student council president. She isn't. She's vice president. She still holds a very high position. But even the drama club president, you know, he was like, oh, you know, number 2 is the hardest job in any organization. You're going to have the most work and the least recognition. And she's like, ah, you know, which is true. You know, that does tend to happen a lot. So I think this episode nailing that is really good, and the writing is really good. It comes from a place of somebody who's experienced something like that before, and you can really tell. And then the second thing is, how do you get yourself out of that funk? Well, the president of the drama club came to Takamine, and he showed her a very embarrassing video of him putting forth all this effort when he was really young, and ultimately, it not really getting anywhere, right? He's still, he's still in drama, he's still doing his passion, but ultimately it didn't really get anywhere. And the other part of it is he just wanted to get her to laugh, kind of get her out of her funk, which he was able to accomplish. And she's now looking at the whole situation a little differently. She's able to be the bigger person in her mind. She goes and shakes the student council president's hand. She says, hey, I look forward to working with you. She took a really large step there. So very, very interesting and very, very well written. The other half of the episode, again, is dealing with Mitsumi and her feelings for 𝐜𝐴 or Shima, whatever you want to say. And she's dealing with all that. She's dealing with all those complexities around trying to figure out how to navigate this relationship. Ultimately, she ends up asking him out, really kind of like on a friend. Like, basically just like, hey, go with me. And he was already showing a lot of interest in the zoo. He even looked up what days are not busy. So he was dropping hints left and right, 9 ways to Sunday. And ultimately, she ends up being like, oh, just let's go then. Let's go then. And he's like, okay. And obviously she's freaking out internally because she's like, is this a date, blah, blah, blah. And it very well could be in both of their minds. But it just kind of worked out that way to where it's kind of like a friend date, kind of thing. And then the episode obviously ends with the big time model or actor girl showing up, which of course makes sense because Shima was a childhood actor and he's really good looking as well. So she shows up there. Apparently she's a childhood friend. She meets Mitsumi, and we're gonna see what ends up coming from that. But obviously, we're gonna have to deal with Mitsumi feeling some type of way. But Skip and Loafer episode 7, fantastic writing. Very well written. Very much enjoy seeing all of the different ways that they're able to kind of like capture the essence of being, young and everything. And I just think this nails everything. I can't wait to see Shima and Mitsumi take a real first step and go on. Maybe the zoo is the first real date. I can't wait to see them do something that gets them just a little bit out of the friend zone. I don't need a kiss or anything. Just like let's get that vibe going. And let's see where it goes. Maybe even if the season ends off on a cliffhanger or something. Even if it's just them like holding hands or like hugging or like somebody embraces one of the other people. Like I think that's gonna be a really cool moment, and I think I'd be totally okay in this specific anime with something like that. Let me know what you think though in episode 7 of Skip and Loafer. I'll see you guys next week for episode 8. Next week's episode, guys, might be a little bit late as this one was because I'm in the process of moving. My setup still looks set up here, but behind me is all kinds of boxes and shit. So next week I might be even more late on some of my reviews. So please make sure to come back and check me out for whenever I drop episode 8. All right, see you guys next week. Peace.